And thank you very much tonight for taking the time to watch my presentation. I'm Cathal Friel. I'm the original co-founder, executive chairman, that's more or less CEO of Orphan. Many of you have heard my presentation before, but let me take you through it pretty quickly, and I'll try and update you with news flow as they go along. First of all, we're a CRO. We're a niche CRO, but let me come to that before we get to exactly what we are, how we do it. We've taken two massively loss-making companies, put them together, taken out a lot of the excessive management teams, and we hired internally. We're very conscious of out of control salaries in these little AIM companies. I've been an investor in AIM most of my life. This is my third public company on AIM, and my salary and as the other director's salaries, Leo Toole here, CFO, is on the website, www.openorphan. Investors, corporate governance, and I'm in £45,000 per year, and I get a 25% annualized bonus subject to performance, nothing else. No health plan, no life insurance, none of these funnies. I find that is absolutely enough for me. Leo's on virtually the same. Again, no life insurance, none of the funnies, no warrants, no options. But he does get a small pension contribution. Likewise, all the rest of the management team have got to be less than the bosses. That's a good way we put it up there, so we don't have this out of control salary. So I think that's a very important statement. We don't give options or shares to any of our staff. We're believed as a services company. We pay people very well, and people want shares or options. We can encourage them to go buy them themselves. I bought all my shares. Leo has bought some shares, so it's a good way to have it. Really importantly, moving on next, that's really what we are. What are we? And this slide is very important. We put two struggling CROs together. We're now the world leader in the testing of vaccines, antivirals, human challenges. That's a nice place to be. Even more importantly, just in the last week, one of the largest pharma journals in Europe rated it as one, it's nice to say it, are we? We don't know. One of the top 10 most important CROs in Europe, and if not in the world. And the reason to put us there is that we are in this era now. There's been virtually nothing spent in vaccines for almost 30 years, whereas you had billions spent in oncology, which is cancer treatments, billions in gene therapy, and we've had the pandemic. There was more money spent this year on vaccines than the previous 30 years combined. Our belief is we're entering an era of exceptional expenditure, 30 years catch up in vaccines. We're the world leader in the testing of vaccines and also antivirals. This is a great place to be. And then being nominated as one of the top 10 CROs is not a bad place to be. So that's very important, and really important we believe we're very much delivering on our plan. We've always said we have to be profitable. We're clearly profitable now for quite a few months. Q4, the cash balance will come to the moment, is building up, and we're throwing off $1 million a month. So that's a nice place to be. The two companies is really hVIVO and to a lesser degree Venn. I know when it comes to Venn, in recent weeks people say you'd like to see more meat on the bone of the Venn contracts. We announced some this week, we announced some in recent weeks, and we have more coming soon. Our hVIVO contracts, we're the only really person in the world can do these challenge studies, so we don't mind. Those contracts are 3, 4, 5, and 8, 9, 10 for COVID related. So we don't mind, but we have to be relatively careful on what pricing we put on our Venn, because we've got some very interesting pharma companies. But the Venn business, we are re-quoting on a regular basis, so we have to be careful on putting. But you can take it as read, the contracts this week were material. Otherwise, the broker would make it an RNS reach. So always, if it's a reach, it's not material. But if it's an RNS, it is material. So I just want to share that the contracts we're signing in Venn, and even I would hope in the not immediate, but pretty soon, that the Venn will hopefully be announcing some form of a vaccine contract in the future. We're another top 3 company, so Venn does have really interesting clients. Look in the bottom right-hand side here, we've got virtually every one of the large vaccine companies in the world as either current customers or past customers, most of them current. This is just a simple snapshot. We've had a good role. Our cash in our balance sheet now is larger than our market cap a year ago. We're quite proud of that. But now we're making profits every week, every month. Services companies, there should be no excuse. We should never be losing money. So look, we don't think we should get a medal for saying we're highly profitable. But that's why you invest in services companies. Some services companies, our former Venn management team and our former Venn HVivo seemed to think they could go on for 5 or 10 years losing money, but I think we all know that those days are over as far as this company is concerned. It's profits, it's growing revenues, and that naturally gives us options. We've got a lot of news flow, and most of the time if there's challenge studies, we'll put the price on them, 3, 4, 5. The price keeps going up because the more demand. And if it says then contracts, we'll keep them coming. They at times we might have some less information on because they're price sensitive compared to the competitors. We do have competitors chasing. So I think, look, I'm not going to bore you. As we have RNSs, we publish them. And the lucky part of really running 2 businesses pretty aggressively, we do have a good, decent amount of news flow. I think we're good at closing deals, we're good and get the customer across the line. And the customers really like it. Bear in mind, we're a services company. The most important part of our business are really the long, we've some staff in the company, quite a few, who've been with the combined companies for over 20 years here in London, in the same office, and in Paris. So that is why we can get big customers. Some of the biggest pharma companies deal with us on a regular basis, because it's not me they're dealing with, it's not the company, it's these people that have known for 20 years and trust. So that's what it's like to be a service company. Human challenge, I'm not going to bore you with the human challenge. People who know us know what it is. We test vaccines using this human challenge. But the really important part, bottom right hand side, we have a 24-bed facility. It's now full capacity. This is out of date. Summer 21 is full capacity till December next year. And we've now a second facility, complement here, the Royal Free, complement of the UK government. We're doing their human challenge study models for COVID-19. So we have a second facility, and that is pretty full. And hopefully in January, not any later, we'll be announcing, and we can't say it yet, we're in final negotiations on a third facility. And the amazing part of our third facility, we're hope to have a contract signed. We'll announce that. But more importantly, along the way with that, we already have studies starting. So we were going to have our first RSV study starting in a third facility, hopefully before the end of January. So that's really exciting. And that facility, we're nearly half full for next year. So the secret of our model is keep putting as many challenge studies through as possible. They're all profitable. We're not taking on any big leases. The third facility is a light touch lease, no long-term commitments. We're paying decent rent, and we've got 12-month break clauses all over the place. Former management team in some of these businesses sign up big leases and people get trapped. So anyway, good news. Third facility is coming down the track, and pretty soon. The challenge study business, the interesting part about this is traditionally it was all influenza, then RSV. And then you'll see the middle, we've done COVID-19. So the COVID-19 challenge models are very interesting. The British government with a huge contract. We've virtually every one of the big vaccine manufacturers looking to talk to us for that. We're taking our time. We can pick and choose who we want to work. So that's the idea. We have these extra facilities to do those. The really interesting part of them, some people are saying now that there is Pfizer vaccine, Moderna and Oxford, is there need? Absolutely. The next generations is coming through pretty fast in the vaccines, and one of them would be Codigenics. We announced a deal on 20th of July, a phase 1 study. We're hoping to get approval pretty soon on Codigenics, and that we can start that trial immediately. Codigenics, we've seen some issues with allergic reaction in recent days with Pfizer, but Codigenics is a nasal. It's only COVID-19 vaccine that you can inhale, basically up the nose, so that'll avoid the allergic reactions. But more importantly, that's going to be next generation. So we're kicking off a really interesting and valuable phase 1 that'll be in our QMB facility. And there's a natural tendency, if we do the phase 1, we'll hopefully be doing a challenge study for them next summer. So there's any amount of challenge study business at the moment, but really importantly, beyond Codigenics, that's the second generation. The second generation will be almost head-to-heads. There's no need. The Pfizers of the world don't really need a challenge study. They're out there. But the other contenders come up behind would like challenge studies to catch up. And the next generation, the ones Codigenics, our belief it'll be at least 5, if not 7 years immunity. That's what we mean by the second generation. And there's a bunch of those coming, and they'll do head-to-head studies comparing how they perform in a challenge study versus the standard of care. So that's where we can do a lot. But really importantly, we do want to sit in our laurels. We're doing RSV, we're doing COVID-19, we're doing influenza. We have 7 other challenge models, but we're getting new ones by the day. We're now working on malarial models, strep pneumococcal models, and antimicrobial models. So we're going to have a very, very busy number of years. We'll keep rolling out extra units and keep filling them. So that's where we're going to be very, very cash flow positive as we go forward, as we currently are at the moment. This is really taking you through how the challenge model works. I'm not going to dwell too much on that one. And I'd say this is that lab services are now more valuable and important than ever. I did say in the past we didn't oversell or overpush our COVID-19 antibodies and COVID-19 PCR because, as we all know, come next summer, that market will evaporate, and it's evaporating fast in front of us. We're making good money from it, but if you can get a vaccine for sub $10, why will anybody pay $10, $20, $30, $50 for a test? So governments around the world, as we go in springtime, our belief is that that's not a market we want to be in. The really important one, again, I think people are getting impatient. When are you going to announce the wearables? Look, bear with us. We're not far away. We have a lot of wearable companies now because we do have the world's largest database of infectious disease progression data. And we'll be announcing, I'd be surprised if we're announcing a number of deals in that space. And that's a number of deals because your new wearables, your smartwatch wants to tell you what's wrong with you. We've got the data. We've been infecting people for 15 years. We've monitored core body temperature, blood oxygen, movement, heartbeat. We've all the vitals. Match those to a smart device, and the smart device can tell you, beep, 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 have you got influenza? Have you got the flu? Have you got RSV? Or potentially, have you got COVID? So that is a really, and I think going forward, we are a very profitable services company throwing off cash, and naturally we'll have to look at dividends next year or something. That cash is not going to sit in our balance sheet too long. We don't believe that's your cash. It's not our cash. It's not the company cash. It's the shareholders' cash. But the wearables will bring us along. I would imagine we'll have a number of wearable deals in quick succession as we get into the new year. I think I've covered this. We're well past the break-even point. There's 1 million added every month now, and that's a nice place to be. It gives frankly, it gives us options. If you're not making money, you run that. We will not be doing fundraisers ever again. They say the only fundraise is us giving money back to our long-suffering shareholders. Current trading, I think I've covered this. We've got a lot of contracts. We're in a lucky position. We're quite aggressively signing up contracts, but more importantly, quite aggressively delivering on those contracts as well. And as we sign them, we'll announce them and we'll deliver them. And everyone is cost plus. We don't sign contracts we lose money on. So that's really, really important. Pipeline, people didn't believe earlier in this year what it was, and now we're working our way very, very nicely through it. So we've no qualms there. That's all work in progress. Awareness, because we're one of the few people in the world doing this, we've got a very high profile. I gather we're on Japanese TV on Christmas Day, a feature on our clinic. The camera crew were with us today, and they're putting our chief medical officer, chief scientist on literally 25th December on the leading Japanese TV. So look, we've a very high profile. That all helps. It's a bit of vanity, but with the customers, we have high brand recognition now. So in summary, we're niche zero, but we're fast growing. We're very profitable and generating cash. We're the world leader in the testing of vaccines. We have a very broad customer base. We have huge opportunities. We're now entering the decade of exponential vaccine development. There's 30 years of catch up. Major contract signed. We'll not dwell on that. That's work in progress. You've seen in the UK Vaccine Task Force report, we're mentioned on page 20 and 21 as how the government was very excited about working for challenge studies. I'll not bore you. The share price is the share price. We'll keep driving it. My plan is that I'm one of the largest shareholders. I want to keep driving that share price and keep compound growth, basically. Last thing, Immutex, this has been, frank and honest, the only part I think we've delivered in most aspects of our business, but we're a little bit behind schedule, but not too far in monetizing these assets. So all I ask you, bear with us for a short while, and we will have Immutex, Prep Pharma, and their immune modulator monetized. That is, to get a really good deal in this space, it takes a little bit extra time. We can go and flog it tomorrow, and that will be a dividend species. We'll hand the cash back. But I think if we just take our time and position that right, that's an asset worth taking our time to get right. I did say we'd have it done before Christmas. We won't have done before Christmas, but I don't think you have to wait too long beyond Christmas. We want to get a really nice deal there. So I think, Roland, I've talked 16 minutes, so I better give time for a Q&A if that's okay.
We've had lots of questions, so I'm just going to try and rattle through as many as I can in the time that we've got, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Has the option to acquire Chimagents been exercised? If so, for how much?
Yes, that's a work in progress. We've more or less agreed that the original contract was a smart way of acquiring 6 of our competition, and basically we no longer have a competitor. We must do that in the coming days and announce it. It's only a formality, but it hasn't been exercised. But our staff who are in there are working full time, very busy, and it's a piece of paperwork we must do. But they're in, they're bedded in, they're going nowhere. They've been a fabulous win. So basically, we did that rather than compete with them. We hired our competition, and that's who the Chimagent people are. So that's work in progress, but there's no issue whatsoever with that.
Okay. With many companies pushing their efforts into a COVID vaccine, this question is believed the Immutex is possibly the most advanced flu vaccine in the world. Is there a strong possibility that Immutex will not only be used for flu, but could be used in combination as a COVID vaccine?
Yeah, look, within the reason we're taking a little bit of time, we potentially have a seasonal coronavirus vaccine in there, which would be interesting because, like we all know, COVID's not going away. It's going to be with us for quite some time. And the beauty about what we have in that package is almost a pandemic package. We have a universal flu. We've potentially a seasonal, and seasonal being very important because you take it every year and it covers all the coronaviruses. And don't forget, we've mosquito saliva vaccine in there. Had fantastic phase 1 results. That has efficacy in malaria, dengue fever, Nile fever, and Zika. So that package of Immutex, we want to be very careful what we do. We just don't want to sell it at the first bar. We would really like to reverse it into a NASDAQ vehicle. So answer your question, yeah, there is a lot more potential than basically purely a universal flu.
Okay, UK ethics committees are likely to have a number of interesting questions concerning protocols which use your new COVID virus challenge model. Have you submitted any COVID viral challenge protocols yet? And if so, have you received any ethics committee feedback or approvals?
All we can say there, we generally don't say challenge studies, every challenge study has to get ethics approval, has to get MHR approval. And we generally never update the market. I think ethics panels and regulators don't like put them in the spotlight. I often say that is work in progress and has never been an issue for the company. We do it, every study gets it. We never announce them, but that is absolutely work in progress and steady she goes. We may be announcing, we are awaiting regulatory approval, as said, on the Codagenics, which is a new generation vaccine, and that's important to announce that one. But the other ones, work in progress and no issue, and we're well down the road with kicking off all the government-related trials. So that's again not an issue at the moment. If it becomes an issue, I think we'll be alerting the market, but absolutely no issue. That is almost well under control, is the way we'd say.
Okay. It says you've made many statements about the share price and that your institutional investors are not selling. The share price action and reports by Morningstar, etc., shows a different story. Private investors are not seeing the return expected. Here's the question: what's the true story is the share price being suppressed by selling from institutions?
Look, again, Roland, this is always hard to know. I think some people who say we haven't performed, I would take it back. Or this time last year, we bought a share price during Christmas week, could have bought them for 3.5 pence. I think today we're 23p, so a 7x uplift in 12 months is pretty good. I think our share price done well. Yeah, I keep saying we're not in the COVID bubble. People would love to see our 30 or 40p. We don't want to see our share price run the head. Yeah, of course, there's people buying, there's people selling. We don't have any particular big institutional seller because that'll show up. If there is, you'll see updates to the market. We watch the share register. There's quite a lot of retail who came in at 5p, came in at 12p, came in at 15p, who've taken profits, particularly in recent weeks with the capital gains. There is a lot of parties taking profits, but then there's a lot of people buying in, feeling, well, wow, this has exposure to COVID, but we're not a COVID bubble stock. There is a big shakeout in the COVID stocks, as we all know, particularly ones that don't have revenues, particularly ones that don't have profits. We've got very serious large revenues, we have very serious profits. So I think we're relaxed in that regard. Our belief when it comes to share price, I'm the single biggest shareholder. I can't sell for 3 years. I have a year done, a year and a bit. I have another 2 years to go. So I'm very conscious of the share price. I wouldn't be doing these regular presentations if it wasn't. But we're relaxed on it. I think, look, let's get into early next year. Let's deliver some meaningful news flow. And my view, the share price will drive on ahead. So I think people should relax. We're not a COVID bubble stock. I keep saying we don't go up 5x from here. If we can increase the share price 30, 40, 50% every 6 months, that's a good piece of work. And we would like to keep striving and aiming for that.
Okay. Is the Royal Free facility exclusively for the UK government, that is to say, not for private pharma companies, or can you use it for other clients?
At the minute, the UK government signed a 40 million contract with us. Bear in mind, this company never did more than 15 million in a year in its life. So we've got 40 million of contracts to get through. I think that'll keep us pretty busy in the Royal Free for the next year or two. When the UK government, the first 10 million contract was the characterization study. Then there was 3 studies in the region of 10 million each. Once they've gone through that hopper, absolutely, we can work with the Royal Free for those studies. But bear in mind, we do have QMB, okay, it's booked out, and we have ability to, let's say, we're quite creative in our ability to expand. Bear in mind, 3 months ago, we had 1 facility. Today we have 2. And I would like to be updating the market in January as regards our 3rd facility. I think people will be quite bemused and excited. The 3rd facility is not going to cost us a fortune. We're already getting studies to go in there, and we'd like to fill that 3rd facility for all of next year. And that wouldn't have been factored into any of our broker notes. The broker notes value us solely on QMB, not on the Royal Free, and certainly not on the 3rd facility. And then when we finish the 3rd facility, we're going to look for a 4th facility, because we think for the next couple of years, we're in a feeding frenzy for challenge studies. Part of it is the pandemic, but big vaccine companies are realizing that you need challenge studies to get fast. We give information in 3 months that can take in field 2 to 3 years. And also, part of the reason challenge studies, we were one of the few providers. They were big, they were laborious, they were taking long. We can, from signing a challenge study, first contact, have a contract signed in 6 weeks, and have the results back in 6 months. Traditionally, hVIVO would take 3 years to do that. So we've taken 3 years down to 6 months, and that's where we're broadening the market.
Okay. We've had a lot of questions, and apologies for those people who've asked questions that we haven't had time for. We've got time for one more. We've got a lot of questions about deal structure for wearables, and they're asking the same sort of question, which is, would any data deals be negotiated on one-off costs or one-off revenues, or a recurring annual fees or something along those lines?
Yeah, look, we didn't even know about the wearable deal 3-4 months ago, and I think I said we thought we'd maybe put a one-off one. No, what we're going to do very clearly in wearables, I think it's make it smart, do loads of wearable deals with loads of parties, like a license deal, deals up front, recurring revenues every time they need it. So no, the wearables is almost a whole new area. We're going to monetize this data, but absolutely there'll be quite a number of wearable deals, and there'll be recurring revenues and a license fee. So we're not going to go off and risk doing a one-off deal. Initially, we thought we'd try one-off, and that then, if you think of it, gives us great options. We're going into next year, highly profitable, one of the top 10 CROs in Europe, a lot of data deals coming, new models, filling out new clinics. We're able to expand rapidly, and then the non-core assets. So I've never been more excited in all my life. I think, wow, we're just right in a very, very attractive space, and let's see, we're going absolutely delighted with things and really, really excited as a wrap up to the year.